in logical society or debate, reasonable administrative review, um, and appeals hearings. You expect to find reasonable individuals who acknowledge that it may take a moment to assess the other person's position. They can't just assume they know what the person is saying. I had this problem when I was arrested for canceling a meeting that I was invited to. Um, no one would look at the evidence, and I asked the librarian for a federal law library, wouldn't it be expected to look at the evidence first? And she said, you would think so. So, in some sort of rational debate, you would think that evidence would be considered admissible. But Robert Fripp runs round tables and courts of crimson kings and things, he calls them, and he specializes in media manipulation and hypotheses proven because he speculated. Like, for example, he accused me of suggesting he didn't deserve to be paid for what he does. He didn't. Anyone who knows the countless number of people who I sang his praises to, who I bought his records, who I played his music for, and many times I had to replace scratch copies and did so ungrudgingly to listen to again and again, would hardly need to think very long before disabusing that idea of legitimacy. But of course, I was dealing with the city of Pittsburgh, and when it got around that Fripp was down on Jimmy Creary, everybody jumped on. Yeah, he's insulting you behind your back. He's he makes your rock band look bad. It comes up in the headlines of the ghost tower, Crimson University they call Pitt. So there's no reasoning with him. I have anecdotes from people who have contact with him where he blames people who had nothing to do with things for it happening. You know, John Stockwell used to warn that George Shultz used to advertise that they would have to take action based on uh, rumors. You know, and Fripp got managed to get John Stockwell to follow me on my birthday to Allentown when I was staying with one of his dacoits who I met at Claymont on Franklin Street. Well, see why I despair of saying anything about what happened and asking forbearance to understand the situation. But lewd minds, what caused me to bring this up was I saw Jim Jeffries, supposedly a comedian, running roughshod lewdly over Greta Thunberg. I don't know how anyone could think what he was saying was very funny. I could see somebody thinking that I was love struck by Greta Screen. I mean, I'm an old man who's reduced to constant borderline unhealth. But you see, what they were doing was they had impacted a neuroplasm that they called bursting because of the enemy within, the personality change characteristics of the trauma. And saying, well, we'll let you insult the Fuhrer so that you can get it out. I've talked about the fact that they said they would never respect me because I wouldn't fight them. They would attack me blindside. They'd subject me to slaughtering blows, ugly death threats, kill people I loved, they started doing. I mean, it's really saying, if you try to go with the girl who you admire, we'll send out the mafia and get, and waving images suggestive of virginity after killing Cersei Kennedy and violating her. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, what, I mean, I see similarities between that and all over Europe when it comes to their military, the right wings. But you wonder if you can't. Nobody's going to respect you unless you fight against their inhuman manners. Then you know it's like a logical twist. To say that if you attack somebody like this. There was this kid. He gave me the finger. He gave me the finger. He ended up killing somebody. He gave me a finger and gave me a finger and gave me a finger. And when I finally gave it back to him, he subjected me to slaughtering head blows. I mean, I was 9, 10 years old. And this is the mentality that the people in Donbass have been being subjected to, supposedly. But this is not a political statement about Donbass. I'm just showing you the contours of the situation. What they did was they said, subjected me to successive degradations of the X motive. Guess what that means? They would whistle for girls to sleep with me. And they say, you desecrated the sacred vessel of Allah. And this is proven by the degradation you subject pornographic women to. And I talked to Francine D. My interest in the beauty of women is in the visual arts. I put clothes on her and did a portfolio of her. She called me her Picasso. I asked her what's her opinion about the idea that women are degraded because they're sexually liberated. She said it's rubbish, basically. That's not where I'm coming from. So it's a dubious and disturbed conversation from a talking box of two tongues that just likes to start wars. Now, the coward Fripp vampired that by talking about Reagan accurately, as it turns out, for his sinister abuses of the civil peace in Latin America, that I was insulting his wife vicariously. And he was going to prove this by running a Senegalese jammer through my head. And they put up suggestive images of Hannah and Sasha and Camelia and Greta to see if the self-gratification visuals that exist between me and the courtesans of legitimate, mature adult imagery comes out. And Toya Wilcox and her husband subject me to barrages of things like don't be ashamed of little boobies, to intimidate me into saying something protective of the girls who I feel peer affinity for. Now, why would I feel peer affinity for a girl who's coming up against these cruddy things, for wanting to contribute to a more sustainable understanding of the world around us? I mean, I watched Robert Kennedy talk about salamanders and crayfish in the creek, fireflies, butterflies. I remember all those things too. He says his children will never see them. What the hell are we doing? Or who? I mean, who, if not we, who? And Greta, of course, is in ideological programming. I was attacked by a dacoit of Schwarzenegger and poisoned by the Attenborough Pass, that she would have to break from them even to administer peer commiseration with me. So I've reached out to her, it's true, but I understand the blockade on the issue. It's not her. Antonio Guterres of the United Nations has the same blackout. Jeffrey Sachs, people I admire. Robert Kennedy won't discuss it with me. So it's hard to, if you don't have any friends, you don't have any friends. People come on because I have a very, my mother calls a sneaking suspicion that they hijacked the legitimate human interest that somebody would have in me as an artist to escalate the value as a form of crafty guitarism so they could be so generous as to rob me of my life's work. And not generous of them. And I got into it with Greta's administration because she's sending me signals through this green machine that has invaded my home with this Taliban to support the people. I mean, the German Green Party is so right wing, and yet they managed to get the Black Panthers to slyly take credit for involvement in my father's, what apparently was a murder. Anybody who knows me knows how heartbreaking it is for me to think, and my father, how heartbreaking it is to think, or even Robert F. Kennedy, to have to think that there were black people who were so uncharitable towards white people who were on the front lines of trying to help them that they would stab them in the back. And that's exactly the sort of thing that the administration of parochial intelligence systems in Hollywood are looking for. They're looking for people who are willing to behave that way. So it's when the FBI said King is out of the way, we need to find somebody who's more in line with our interests. They got somebody. I mean, Obama was crazy. He was chasing me around like it was an African safari animal. I'm sorry, I I'm not trying to dictate to Greta what her tolerance should be, but people like that, they don't want to be ignored. They want to escalate. They're giving cover for a syndication that has done cruel and perverted things to yours truly. The whole idea was to give me the finger, give me the finger, give me the finger, give me the finger, subject me to slaughtering blows, give me the finger, subject me to slaughtering blows, and then finally say, you're such a sissy, if you don't give us the finger, we will kill you. And then they come and put me in handcuffs and lock me up for giving them the finger. This finger was the first thing that went stiff from Parkinson's. They had a dacoit come in to the menagerie and go, I wonder what's wrong with my finger, like this, to herself. They have the whole thing freak showed from high science. These are very disturbing neocon elements that we need to identify and form an alliance to protect each other from. I must say in closing, that it looked to me like Jim Jeffries was gratifying Toya Wilcox's need to hear something unpleasant about Greta. I don't know why Fripp is doing this, but he seems to have been behind the original attacks too. It was the idea that, oh, we're going to adopt K and C, and we're going to subject K to glorification for torturing C, and C to Christianization so Tharls can say, he's neat, man, he's neat. Yeah, neat, just neat. Wow, man, he's neat.